What's up guys, and welcome back to MOV.E. I hope you're all keeping well out there. So the first part of this is going to be 2 minutes of cardio of your choice. Now we're going to do two movements that we're going to go back and forth between for that 2 minute block. So the first one is a plate grounder overhead. So with a nice light plate, we're going to go from the floor up to lockout, keeping the back nice and straight. Once we've done 10 of those, we're going to come down into a push-up position or a bear crawl position, and we're going to basically do leg through, so doing a sit through movement for 10 reps on that one, going back and forth, keeping that midsection nice and tight. Now once the first 2 minutes are up, we're going to go into the next 3 minutes where each minute you'll go 10 up downs. So that's jumping out to push-up position and back to standing, and whatever's left in the minute you'll do as many sit-ups as you can. So either with or without the ab mat, going from laying down to sitting up, and you'll just do that for the remainder of each of those 60-second blocks. Good to go, Maddie? Yep. All right, starting in 10. So 2 minutes of cardio of your choice, guys. You can do what we're doing or you can pick your own thing. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So I mentioned before, guys, that it is a light plate. Now that is deliberate. We want to think about a weight that just enables us to jump straight into it. This is the warm-up, so this will be the first thing you do going into training. So you want to make sure it's not something big and bulky where you've got to warm up before you start doing that. This should be nice and easy. So it's really just more something to hang on to. It doesn't have to have too much weight to it. And it's just enabling us to get that nice strong lockout overhead and that touch on the floor. So once we hit 10, we're going to move to the sit-throughs for 10. So this is a bit of a test of balance, coordination, a little bit of flexibility as well, being able to shoot that leg through. You'll notice that Matty's just kind of taking his time, keeping it nice and stable, not rushing it. So definitely recommend taking it slow if you haven't done this one before, because it can be a little bit of a challenge. One of the things that Matty's doing really well, if you watch his feet, is the foot that has all of his weight on it is going to pivot. So he doesn't lock it straight into the ground. He's going to allow it to turn a little bit as he goes through that movement. Okay, so 1 more minute on this. You should be able to maybe get one more round. Now there's kind of two different plate positions, guys. At the bottom, the plate is going to be vertical, so it's pointing straight up, straight down as he tags the ground. So you'll notice the thumbs will point down towards the floor. At the top, it's going to be horizontal, so he's going to flatten it out as if he's holding up a dinner plate over his head, knuckles to the roof. Nice. All right, we'll see if we can sneak in one more set of the sit-throughs. So again, we're going to see that foot pivot as he shifts his weight onto it. The hand will stay where it is, but obviously there's a fair bit of movement at the shoulder. So you want to stay nice and stable there. Keep things locked in place. You want to get a nice full leg extension out. You might even have a slight contact of the side of your butt to the ground, but that's optional. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So 10 up downs now. So we're in the second section of this warm up. This will be for the next 3 minutes. We start each of those minutes with 10 up downs. So you'll see there's basically two important positions with this. One is the stand up at the top. So getting everything stacked on top of each other, hips wide open. And then the other important position is at the bottom. We're jumping the feet out, again, creating a nice straight line. Once he clears 10 of those, we're going to go into as many sit-ups as we have time for in the remaining time of the minute. So about 25 seconds left. We should be able to get a handful of reps out. Now he's butterflying those knees out, guys. This just allows for a nice smooth movement. Also allows for the abs to do the majority of the work rather than the hip flexors getting overly involved. Be tagging the ground at the back and then tagging the toes at the top. All right, 3, 2, 1, and back into the up downs. So hands will be about shoulder width or just slightly wider. And we want nice locked out elbows, nice active shoulders as you move through this. Stance is going to kind of pinch or close up at the back, so it goes nice and narrow into that gymnastic push-up position. And then it's going to split wide at the top to allow for a nice high hip hinge as we come up out of it. Nice. Okay, so a very consistent time there, which is good. Move through the sit-ups again. Now, one thing I want you to take notice of is that his midsection, when he hits right at the back there as his fingertips touch the ground, he's letting that rib cage flare up. So he's getting a nice kind of arch over the pad. Stretching out those abs, and then snaps close with that arm swing. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, and one more time through. So last minute of the warm-up. Notice how Matty kind of hits the brakes when he hits the bottom there. He's not letting the hips sag through. He's going for a nice, strong push-up position. All right, so last 20 seconds. Going to keep the hips nice and still in the one spot, guys, so rather than letting it lift and kind of seesawing over the pad. 10 more seconds. And done. All right, so that is the warm-up done, guys. Have a little bit of recovery time. We're gonna check out build next. Alrighty, guys, so we're gonna have a look at the build workout now. This one is 10 minutes long. Basically, we have 5 2-minute blocks we're gonna work through. In each of those blocks, we're gonna go through 10 reps on right and left on a single dumbbell suitcase deadlift. So Maddie's gonna set up with the dumbbell on one side. Okay, nice straight back, tagging the ground, and then standing up tall. He'll do 10 on one side, 10 on the other. Once he's completed that, he's going to move down to the floor into a single dumbbell floor press. Now this one's going to be both arms, but still single dumbbell, as opposed to the single-sided one we just did. So laying flat there and then just pressing up to lockout, very similar to like a bench press. So when you go through this, guys, it's a 2-minute block, so we're hopefully going to get the work done in, say, minute 15, minute 30, thereabouts, and then you've got the rest of that 2-minute block to rest. We're doing that 5 rounds. Good to go? All right, starting in 10. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this single-sided deadlift, guys, this suitcase deadlift, let's start off with the stance setup, right? It's quite narrow. Going to be a gap between the feet and the same gap between the knees. We want to make sure that they're not collapsing in on each other. Now, although this is single-sided, guys, we want to pay a lot of attention to keeping squared up. So the best way to do this is to actually pretend like you have a dumbbell in the other hand and just mimic the same movement. Now, the core is still going to do all the bracing because the weight is on one side, but at least we're going to have the shoulders and the hips and the knees all paired up nicely so that we're not falling into the trap of rotating and getting onto an awful angle as we come down. So looking for 10 and 10. And then we're going to hit 15 on the floor press. All right, so moving down. All right, so going into 15 floor press, guys, let's look at the setup. We've got head, shoulders, hips, and feet all glued to the ground. We don't want any of those things to lift off. We also want to pay attention to trying to push our shoulder blades back into the floor. So if you feel your chest kind of lift up, you feel that low back just get a little bit of natural arch to it. That's a good thing. It means we're kind of getting those shoulders in the right spot. From there, we're going to extend those arms up to lockout. So notice Matty's got just a nice controlled pace on this. He's not rushing through it. He's even taking the time to put a little pause top and bottom, which is always good for control. Okay, so Matty's right on task with the time there. We've got 30 seconds rest till the next one. That's 1 round of 5, so there's 4 to go. Okay, 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So into this second round, guys, as we move through these deadlifts, let's have a look at the shin positioning. So Matty's going to kind of work as hard as he can to keep the shins mostly vertical. Now, this being a dumbbell as opposed to a barbell and plates does mean we generally have to go an inch or 2 deeper. So if you have the flexibility, we're going to go front end of the dumbbell to the floor. If you find that going to that point pulls you out of position, so we have a very dramatic knee collapse forwards, we have the back rounding, we have the body kind of twisting, come up a little bit, Matty might just go to like the top of where his socks are or something like that. That allows him to keep everything nice and square. but we're still working for that nice hip hinge the same way we would see any deadlift with any weighted implement. All right, moving back into the floor press. All right, so we're going to see that same lock-in of the shoulder blades. You'll notice that the whole time Maddie's forearms stay pretty much vertical, right? So we're keeping them stacked under the weight itself, which means that at the top of the movement, it's going to be hovering kind of mid to high chest, so level with your shoulders. As it comes down, however, it's going to kind of be sort of low sternum. So there's going to be a slight little kind of arc motion. It's not going to be a dead straight line. And that way we just keep the arms in the best position. We're not having that dumbbell kind of fold back just to stay in line with the shoulders. We want to bring it down a little bit, keep that vertical forearm. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now the main muscles driving this deadlift movement, guys, is going to be your hamstrings, your glutes, your low back. But what we're going to see with this single-sided approach, so we've got all the weight on one side of the body, is that that midsection is going to have to work a lot harder. So all the muscles around the hips, glutes, back, everything through there, your obliques, are all going to have to work as a team to keep everything locked in place. When you do it, you want to be very deliberate in thinking about that musculature. So think about hamstrings, glutes tensing as you stand up. Think about your abs bracing as you move through that movement so you're not getting twisted out of shape and you're not rounding your back. All right, so moving into the floor press for 15 again. This one obviously is now an upper body movement as opposed to a lower body movement. So we're going to see the pecs, shoulders, triceps doing all that pressing motion. That being said, that activation of the shoulder blades is going to get the entire upper back to be working as well. So although this is a kind of a front of body, a pressing movement, we're going to get a lot of engagement through that upper back as well. So if you've only got the option for something fairly light at home, guys, slow it down, go with more of a tempo, use up the whole 2 minutes so you can almost run one round into the next, make it more challenging that way. So that's 3 rounds down, we've got 2 to go. Kick in at the 6-minute marker for the next one. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go. Now, this is an important movement to do, guys, just for real life functionality. We're not generally going to be picking things up that are perfectly balanced and nice and even and nice and convenient like a barbell. So it is good to work with stuff that's a little bit kind of lopsided or a little bit odd, just so it kind of reflects real life. You want to make sure the body has the ability to handle stuff if it's not just beautifully presented in an optimal situation. Make sure you have the ability to brace and correct for those things that aren't even. So as you move through this, guys, you want to keep that chest in the lower part of your field of view. You want to make sure you can always see that sticking out. If you feel like it's very much out of view and you can see your shoulders kind of rounding in, generally means those scaps have released, which is not a good position to be in. You want to make sure you're pushing back, keeping that chest nice and high. So it's like it's raising to meet the dumbbell. Nice. Right on track with the time again, that's good, nice and consistent. I'm going to go one more round. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go. So last round of this one, guys, make sure you're just checking in all those technique pointers as you go. So same gap between the feet and the knees. Make sure we're not collapsing forwards or inwards. Make sure that the shoulders are staying nice and square so we're not twisting, we're not rounding over or anything like that. Remember to make that adjustment with the dumbbell. If you don't feel like you can get to the ground touch with good positioning, come up a little bit. It's more important that everything's in a good spot rather than us actually having to touch the floor. Notice as well, Matty's head stays nice and neutral as he goes through this. He's not craning the head back as he comes down. It's actually just staying pretty much fixed with the rest of him as he moves. All right, last set of the floor press, so 15 reps. If you happen to be doing this with a kettlebell, guys, sometimes that can be a little awkward if you want to try and do that single hold. You have the handle on one side and the round part on the other. You can actually kind of turn it so it's lined up with you and grab onto the horns, press that way. Or if you want to, you can go 15 single side press, 15 single side press, depending on if the weight's appropriate. You can do that as a backup plan if that works a little better. So that was our last round, guys. We've got about 20 or so seconds left on the clock, so we'll let that run out and then we'll push on to the move workout. Last 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that is the build workout done, guys. We're just gonna finish things off in a moment with a little bit of cool down stretching. Alrighty, guys, now that all the hard stuff is done, we're just gonna slow things down with a little bit of stretching. So the first drill we're gonna do is a scorpion tail. So this one we're gonna be laying on our front. We're gonna do this for the next minute. So arms out in a T shape, and then we're gonna bring the opposite leg across. Okay, and then we're just gonna go back and forth. So you notice Matty will put about a 3 to 5 second pause at end range there. Now, this is a really nice one because it allows us to hit a few different spots at once. So at the top end of things, we've got the shoulder, bicep, kind of chest area, that sort of thing. And then down low, we've got the hip flex. You might even get a little bit of quad as well if you can get that knee into a nice big deep bend. We also get a little bit of rotation through that midsection. So there's a lot of good things going on there. I like that Matty is really exaggerating the leg movement over the top to the point where he's almost rolling to face the roof. So we're not gonna touch the opposite hand, but we're gonna kind of move in that direction with that foot and use the other hand, the spare hand, to kind of push and lever off the ground as much as we can. Get that really nice stretch. All right, from there, we're gonna move into a seated shoulder stretch. So we're gonna go feet out in front, hands as close as we can get them behind us. Okay, so from there, if you can, you're gonna shuffle the hips forward a little bit, open up on that shoulder angle. We'll do this for a minute as well. Now, over time, the goal is to get your pinkies to touch behind you. That's not necessarily gonna happen immediately, but it's something to work towards. And once you do have that, you can start to shift the hips further and further, creating more and more stretch on the shoulders. So really important when you do this one, guys, don't let the shoulders slump and roll internally to get them back further. You're gonna make sure that the shoulders pull back. We get really, really wide across the chest there. Big breaths in, trying to expand through the shoulders and the chest. It's gonna be a really nice one for anything sort of upper body based. All right, so those are the two drills, guys. I'll get you to do them 3 or 4 times. Take some time to loosen up. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. And that's been your Move Plus workout.